Becca. And hey, everyone. It's so great to meet you. Hope you like those little entry music also. As Becca mentioned, my name is Brandon. I am the head of content here at Kickstarter. What does that really mean? I help oversee our social media team, our content team, from blog content to other content you'll see from the brand. I've been a part of Team Kickstarter since August of last year, but I've also been in the social media and content space for over 10 years now, working with brands in fashion, tech, music, and beauty. So I've seen a various kind of mix of content, which, I'm happy to talk about with everyone. And I think this room also has a mix of creators, so it's great. But I'm also a creator myself. I create content on social media. So, I know the pain points of creating content, doing content when you're also doing 7 other priorities, and how you don't want to be spending all your time on social media. But I do think it's worth noting that the way the landscape has shifted today, it kind of feels like you need to be good at social media to be good at marketing your brand or your product or your service. So that's a pain point for a lot of people. But my hope is today I'm going to give you some tips, some tools, some strategies to help overcome that. Give me just like a note in the chat if you're able to see my screen, able to see everything. Let me know what kind of creator you are. Let me know where you're coming from. But in today's session, I kind of want to overview the fundamentals of social media, some key strategies that work. I want to give you some ideas for every step of your campaign journey, and then also share some pieces of content that we think are kind of A1, A plus content that kind of you can kind of model your ideas off of. So with that, let's kind of just dive into it, right? But before we begin, I kind of want to address the elephant in the room. Elephant meaning, again, this will be a little bit general. And the reason why is because unlike other webinars, this isn't focused on one category. We probably have games creators, I see film creators here, comic creators, publishing, right? And all of those audiences react very differently to content. But again, my goal is to give you a blueprint that you can apply to your area of expertise. The next kind of caveat I want to mention to this group is social media changes every single day. One day Instagram says reels are, what you need to do. The next they're saying, hey, carousels are going to get a lot more reach over the next couple of months. One day, TikTok is where everyone needs to be. The next day, TikTok might get banned, right? It's always changing. It makes my job a little bit hectic at times, but being adaptable is definitely a skill within the space. And the last thing I will say is over everything I'll tell you today, listen to your audience. If I say something, but you're seeing that your audience resonates with a particular platform, a particular type of content, listen to them over anyone else. They know what they like best. With that, let's dive into the fundamentals. You're going to hear me say a couple of different words today. And before we kind of dive into things, kind of like want to lay the foundation. I'm not going to go through like the whole dictionary of social media, but just a couple terms, right? You're going to hear me say the word algorithm a lot. And the algorithm is how the platform works. It determines what content is shown in what order, and when that content is shown. You're also going to hear me say the word natively. This refers to posting or doing actions directly in an app or platform versus doing it in another app or platform. What that means is you can edit videos natively in TikTok or Instagram, or you can edit it in an Adobe tool and upload it, right? They have their benefits. Short form, this refers to video content, but it refers to content that is concise. It's typically under 1 minute long. You're going to see this content on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, but it's designed for this quick attention and a fast-paced user. And lastly, format. I'm going to talk about various formats of content, from video to image to text to audio to maybe a combination of them all. And as I'm going through this, right, one pro tip I want everyone to know is each platform serves a unique purpose. There's a reason why videos do really well on YouTube, long form videos and like a horizontal layout, right? But they might not perform the same way on Instagram, right? Platforms have their different benefits, and it's always best to kind of lean into what that platform does really well. And with that, let's talk about Instagram. Instagram should be high level, right? Consider like your website on social. It serves as the heartbeat of your brand, where in a few scrolls, I should be able to understand your essence. I should be able to understand, what you're serving. So if a first-time visitor lands on Instagram, think of it as your website. I like to say, like, whatever is in your toolbar, maybe that's your highlights in Instagram stories. But Instagram also has various elements from the feed to stories to reels to lives to messages. Um, but Instagram performs really well when it's used for brand awareness and community. With that, let's talk a little bit about Facebook. Facebook is still around. People, use it here and there, but I think it's still very valuable for global reach. It's still great for fostering community. It's great for driving pledges because you're able to have this native link in Facebook versus on Instagram, where a lot of people have to say link in bio, or you have to drive them somewhere else, which is kind of changing user behavior. It's also great for brand awareness. But the key tip here is that you can basically just repurpose whatever content you're producing for Instagram, for Facebook. Again, it's used great for awareness, groups, lead generation, direct linking, you name it. The next one I'm going to talk about are these news and community forum platforms. The reason I'm framing it in this way is because there's a couple in the space. We all know Twitter, now it's called X, right? There's also an app called Blue Sky, which is very new, but it's getting a lot of traction. Actually, today, someone in our cat community mentioned that in the games community, people are now going to Blue Sky and not using Twitter, and the fostering community on this app. I think this app already hit millions in user activity, so it's growing immensely. But there's also Threads, which is Instagram's version of Twitter, for lack of a better word. Next, you have LinkedIn. And with the downfall of Twitter, a lot of people have also gone to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not just for those boring company B2B news updates. LinkedIn has also evolved. It's a lot more than a job board today. It's used for a community who is eager to learn, they're eager to share, and they're eager to connect. So as a founder of a product or a business or a service, I think LinkedIn is a prime area for a lot of you because you're able to share content that aligns with your mission, your expertise. You're able to offer insights. You're able to offer company updates, and people want to connect more with your personal account than your brand account. What that means is if you own a business, it's better to post from your personal account on LinkedIn than posting on your brand account because brand accounts are really deprioritized. Next, YouTube. YouTube is for longevity. So the easiest way I can illustrate this is typically on Instagram, your content has like a 72-hour shelf life. That means when you post something, it will be seen primarily for 72 hours. Very rarely are you scrolling on a feed and you see a post from 30 days ago. It used to even say like you've seen the content within the last 3 days, right? Same thing for TikTok, right? I think TikTok, you can get away with maybe 30 days, but very rarely are you scrolling and seeing video content from 3 years ago on TikTok. YouTube is very different. On YouTube, you can see content from 3 years ago when you search something. YouTube, you'll see content from 6 months ago. But YouTube has a longer shelf life. And I think for a lot of creators, whether you're starting a product or service and you eventually get to market and you're not having this live out into the world, you can easily have your YouTube content living and even update your links, update the caption, update the title, that way people can always find your brand, your product, or your service. And one interesting thing about YouTube is more than 70% of what people watch is determined by the algorithm. Again, that's the big kind of scary machine that kind of determines what people will see, how it's seen, all that. So when you're on YouTube, right, even when you log in, you're greeted with all this video content. And even when you watch a video, it autoplays something, right? YouTube is determining what users watch. So this is important because organic success, not just on YouTube, right? Organic success is determined by your ability to understand the algorithm and kind of prioritize your content accordingly. The way YouTube views it is it's looking at your content in all words, right? It's looking at the title, the captions, the descriptions, the subtitles, the tags you're using on the back end. It's taking all this information and figuring out how to serve it to users. Instagram does the same thing, whether it's with locations, with sound, with your caption, your tags, all that. But one pro tip, right? The algorithm is not your enemy. It's your key to success. I know a lot of people hate the algorithm. They'll think, oh, my post is being deprioritized by the algorithm. But the algorithm is the only way for your content to be seen. And lastly, I want to talk about TikTok. Honestly, TikTok is one of the most powerful platforms, and its future is unknown, but I still think we're pretty safe, knock on wood, And there's going to be a lot of brands that can still benefit within this time using TikTok. And truthfully, users spend more time on TikTok than any other platform other than YouTube, quote unquote. You can watch like a documentary on YouTube if you wanted to. But versus its competitors, right? People are watching literally a Netflix worth amount of content on TikTok. It's storytelling meets entertainment. It's for your mobile phone, so it's already very immersive. And brands can really optimize this channel by using engaging video content, content that speaks to their audience, content that aligns with trends, or even kind of like these meme-esque videos. The bar on TikTok is very low for entry. And the thing that makes TikTok so interesting is most people who have a following on TikTok don't have a following on other platforms. Typically on TikTok, you're able to amass a large following, but you don't need to have a large following on Instagram or Facebook or any other channel to succeed on TikTok. I know I just went through all those platforms. Might feel like a lot. Again, drop any questions in the chat if you have them. But one thing I want to note here is that you do not need to be on every single platform. I know, you got to worry about everything from YouTube to Instagram to Facebook, and it can feel like a lot. Find what works for you. Find what community loves. And I think the best way we like to think about it here is you don't need to be loved by everyone. You want to be loved by people who really connect with your brand. Right? You're not trying to speak to everyone. You try to speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So really focus on the platforms that work for your particular brand. With that, now I want to get into like some strategies. This is going to get good. You got your notepads, get the questions. And the first thing I want to note to everyone is really video is the blueprint here. Video is your blueprint to success, whether it's growth, it's sales, it's virality, however you define it, video is going to get you there. And the reason we can say that is because video is used on every single platform nowadays. LinkedIn, surprisingly, has a video tab. TikTok, of course, that's all they do are videos. Instagram, if you want to grow your account now, Reels are the way to do it. People really aren't growing their accounts with static posts, single image posts on Instagram. Pinterest loves video. Even YouTube has YouTube Shorts, which are short form videos like TikToks. Everyone is going after these vertical videos, and we're going to dive into it a little bit more. But there are some things I want to kind of call out on why video is so important. So, how to make good video content? You want to think about it in a couple of different ways. You want to make sure that it's mobile first and mobile created. The bar for entry is very low. You don't need to, have a professional camera or videographer to shoot this content. It can be shot on your iPhone or your Android phone. So it needs to feel native, it needs to feel organic, it needs to feel kind of lo-fi, they call it. That allows people to think that you are a creator just like them, you're authentic, you're able to connect with them on this platform. It needs to feel low effort. You spend a lot of time maybe crafting the content, but the content itself feels pretty seamless, feels very organic again. Short form. You want to aim for at least 15 to 45 seconds. I think it's very hard to kind of get your content down to that, length. But the more you do it, the more easy it will become, where you don't need to have this long speech or this long video. You would just do it very natively and quickly. Sound on. One thing about TikTok is when you join the app, everything else mutes. If you're listening to music, it shuts off. People are immersed on that video. So video content should be sound on, it should be engaging. You want to have a hook. You want to have a hook in the first couple of seconds. How does this look, right? Again, I'm talking a lot about TikTok because they have changed the blueprint for every other social channel. Instagram has copied them, YouTube has copied them, and there's a reason why. They've changed the playbook because now everyone's following the same format of a TikTok video. You have a hook in the first 3 seconds, and then no matter what type of video you're creating, whether it's problem resolution, you're taking someone on your journey of your product, you want to stop them from scrolling. The reason why is because when you're on these video platforms, there's an endless feed of content. There'll never be a moment where you scroll on Instagram or you're scrolling on TikTok and they say you've watched all the videos, right? They're going to always serve you more content. So because users are seeing so many videos, you need to think what's going to stop them, whether it's something that's a question, whether it's a cool graphic, whether it's something that's just attention grabbing, right? You want to make sure you're hooking them in the first 3 seconds, and that's going to determine I'm going to stay here and watch this video. Next, the future of social media will be all about community. What I mean by this is more and more we're seeing brands, creators, and apps prioritize community features. Get your pens out because this is some of my favorite information. Brands are not using close friends. And I think that's a huge miss. The reason why is because you want to invite people into community. You want them to feel like there's something exclusive about your content. So imagine if you have, of course, your Instagram account, but you have a close friends where they can see exclusive behind the scenes and they can see maybe special content. That makes someone feel so special. And we think about the way Instagram stories look, those green bubbles are always at the front. So versus your content being all the way in the back and someone needs to watch 20 stories to see you, if they're at the green bubble, it's going to be in the front, they're going to watch you immediately. But there's also a new tool Instagram has released called broadcast channels. Broadcast channels are a new feature that allows one-way messaging to reach your community directly. So you can basically have a broadcast channel. Think of it as like a text message blast in the Instagram DMs. I'm going to be able to share real-time updates. I'm going to be able to share exclusive content. I can record an audio. I can share text. I can share images. And people will see this in their DMs. And everyone, as you can see in this image, right? Everyone from Nike to Instagram to travel to like GQ, everyone's using these features now to reach their audience because these platforms are so cluttered and you're fighting through so much noise. This next one is honestly one of my favorites. It's a tactic where you can supercharge email collection on social media and connect with your audience of backers through messaging. There's a tool called ManyChats. And a lot of creators and brands are starting to use this now, where based on keywords or a trigger word, they can get a message. So if I'm making a post, I can say, comment the word dice, and I'll send you the link to my pre-launch page. And now you have 50 comments saying dice. And it tricks the algorithm because all they're seeing are loads of comments and engagements. So your post gets more visibility, but on the back end, you're messaging everyone and collecting their email. And I think this graphic shows it in a great way for Instagram stories, right? Comment ebook, and I'll send you my camp checklist. You can then create this flow of, hey, what's your name? What's your email? Thanks. Here's the link. And you can kind of have this automated system where you can kind of just gather a bunch of user interest for your campaigns. And next, people versus faceless accounts. People want to connect with creators more than brands at large, right? So having a face to your brand adds credibility to who you are. And I know no one wants to put their face out there. It is annoying, right? No one wants to have to pick up their phone, record a video, all that stuff, but there's a benefit to it. And even face videos, you get a lot more engagement than you just showing a product all the time. So let's talk about some ideas for every content. Again, any questions, drop them in the Q&A section, and we're going to try and answer a bunch towards the end. You want to make sure that you're tailoring your content for each phase, right? Whether you're trying to maximize awareness, create excitement, build trust, or even maintain the momentum of your campaign. So I kind of want to give you some ideas for each and kind of talk them through, right? So when you're creating pre-launch content, this content should be a teaser or to build awareness. The goal is to build anticipation and create excitement before your campaign goes live. So you want to have sneak peeks, right? You're showing behind the scenes videos, photos, the product development. You can even have a countdown. Instagram Stories has a tool where you can have a countdown clock. People can add it to their calendars. Same thing with the ManyChats example. Maybe you're even posting a post a day, 7 days into our campaign, 5 days out into our campaign, 3 days out into our campaign. You're creating this content constantly that's reminding users. And don't be afraid to post, or I don't want to post too much. People see millions of posts a day. I promise you, you probably don't even remember a post you saw 3 days ago. It's okay to kind of constantly post each day. A poll or question, you want to engage your audience and ask for their input. Hey, we're building our campaign. What rewards you guys want to see? Or like, hey, we did these rewards last time. Here's a sneak peek at some rewards. Be sure that you're there at launch. You want to kind of build up that anticipation that makes people want to come to your campaign page. It's also a great time to build your email list, right? You want to share your landing page or your pre-launch page to maximize signups. Again, I think that ManyChats example is a great way to do this where you're garnering emails very early in the process. And lastly, teaser videos. Again, videos are the blueprint for awareness. for reach, for views, for account growth, all of it. So how can you use these high energy clips to maximize the buzz of your campaign or launch, and also have a CTA for your launch date? Next, launch content. This is where you kind of want to build up that excitement and conversion of your campaign. You want to drive traffic to your campaign. You want to make sure that you're converting visitors into backers. You want to have dynamic launch content, attention-grabbing videos or carousels. You want to make sure that you're able to even maybe cut down your campaign video. I think it's a great opportunity where you can kind of use content you've already created and just repurpose it. It's also great when you have that personal appeal. Hey, we just launched. Here's the reason or the backstory why we're launching this campaign. You can also, what I have to call like FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, inducing posts. You can highlight that, hey, we have an early backer reward, and the first 500 backers receive X amount off, or they get the exclusive reward, right? You want to make sure that you're funding your campaign in the first 24 hours. And the best way to do that is to figure out how to drive people to your page by creating buzz, by creating excitement, by also creating a sense of scarcity. Hey, we only have this amount of rewards left. Make sure you get it. If you're able to. I think it's also great to have influencer content. Can you give your product or your book or your service to influencers or other creators, or partner with someone to help amplify your message, help amplify your launch? It's also great for that milestone sharing. You can have like this virtual thermometer or kind of showing your campaign goal. Hey, we're X% funded on the first day. Help us hit this other stretch goal. Just a great way to kind of maximize your launch. I think something everyone should be doing also is, as you're planning your campaign videos, this is a great time to consider what social content you want. So versus think of, I got to build up my campaign page, make my videos, build my rewards, and then do social media. Think about it up front. That way your campaign video already has everything you need for social. Next, you can kind of also tailor your launch content per the platform. I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's a whole bunch of more information I want to go through, but you can use stories with the link sticker to drive users natively to your campaign. I personally think this is better because versus saying link in bio, and you're forcing someone to now click your username, click your link in bio, click your project, the link sticker on stories will just open up your product immediately, right? It opens up your product page, they can see your campaign, and it creates this frictionless experience where I'm now able to see everything I need to. TikTok, again, dynamic videos. LinkedIn, storytelling about your campaign, the problem you're solving, the progress or the process, of creating your campaign. Even, I'm saying Twitter here, but it applies to Thread, Blue Sky, etc. Sharing those series of tweets or highlights that you want to share with your audience. Your mid-campaign content, right? This is between launch day and that final day. This is where you want to avoid those mid-campaign slumps and maintain that level of engagement. So this is everything from stretch goal updates to your sold out of a reward to interactive content. We're going to host a Q&A live and talk about our campaign. And even during the final week of your campaign, I suggest you post daily. You post daily to procure those last minute backings. Make sure that you're pushing your followers towards your goal, and even trying to reach out to other communities and kind of broaden your reach. Truthfully, the mid-campaign content should be the bulk of your social publishing. It's great to build that email list. It's great that during launch that you want to get funded. But for the few of you who may not get funded on that first day, you want to make sure that your campaign is maintaining that kind of progression. That way, during the last day, there's not so much pressure on you. And lastly, right, if you've been funded or entering the late pledge phase of your campaign, this is where you can create urgency for those last minute pledges or set the stage for that post-campaign success. Here's what's next for us. So again, in the last 24 hours, right, you want to have that urgency. Make sure you back, don't miss out. Maybe you're trying to hit a last minute stretch goal. We're already funded, but if we get X% more, we're going to unlock this new benefit for everyone. I think it's a great kind of phase also for late pledge content where you're kind of explaining to maybe last minute or latecomers, here's what we're doing, here's our progress, and here's maybe an exclusive reward for late pledges. So with all of that, I now want to share some examples of kind of Kickstarter creators who've made content I'm going to also, I'm so sorry. I'm going to also explain why this content is good examples. So the first one I want to share is from a filmmaker, and this is a teaser. So I'm going to play the video and then talk through it. Set. So very quick, right? But this is good teaser content. This was posted on LinkedIn, and it got so much engagement. Our social team saw it. It's a great example because not only do the animations look incredible, but right where there's this peak of the moment where you think something is going to, keep going, it just stops and you just see Kickstarter and the date, right? So that is a great way to kind of tease out your campaign and kind of say, oh, wow, okay, now I really want to know about this. I want to watch more. The next example is of another film or animation project. And I'm going to play it and then talk through it.
Skeletons in the closet, they say I don't exist. They just don't see me like you do, think we can be best friends. Everyone else, they all came and went, but you and me know this ain't pretend. Game over leave, so just take my hand, and I'll show you to your head.
Really cool. The thing I like about this video is because it actually taps into a psychology hack that you see a lot on social media. If you've ever seen a video on social media and like there's something playing above, but like the real content's here, maybe there's a video of like, I don't know, Subway Surfers playing above, like there's something that's drawing your attention that has nothing to do with the video, and then below is the real content. It actually tricks your mind to watching longer. And the algorithm actually looks at how long someone is staying on a piece of content. So this video is great because I'm looking at two things at once. I'm looking at the mock-up or like the V1 of this animation and the final animation. It's also great BTS content. I'm able to see, oh, this was the idea and here's the finished product. Works really well. Next, this is an example of a humorous kind of design technology product, but I think it's really good to kind of show how you kind of hook someone, add humor, right? But also make them watch to the end. So again, it's not that they totally rendered that later, but the cool thing about this video is text on screen actually is proven to increase the length in which people watch your video content. The title also said, I can't believe how this turned out, wait for it. So the user now wants to get that reward and figure out what happened at the end. It's another hack or strategy to make people watch for longer and boost your video completion rate, which in parts boosts your engagement. The last one I'm going to show you is from a game creator. I'm going to play the video, then talk through it. You might see a trend here. All these videos are teaching the user how to watch it for longer. So there's actually a trick where the more clips you have in the video, the higher your engagement will be. So each kind of like stop motion, let's call it, right? Each kind of thing this person's setting up is another clip. And because of that jump cut, the user wants to keep watching for longer. There's also text on the screen. But as all this is coming together, I'm now interested to figuring out how this is kind of coming together. So all of these kind of play into each other, but the real trick when it comes to video content is you want to hook someone, you want to make sure that there may be text on screen or something to make them watch longer. You're trying to tricking the user into figuring out like how I can, what's going to happen at the end, like what's happening here, what's the reward, what's going to happen. And lastly, having trending music, both having things move within the video. It's basically like this stimulation of all your senses. And that really works with all this video content. So I hope that was helpful, but I also want to get into some questions with you all. So Becca, let's get into some questions now.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you, Brandon. That was awesome. Reminder, folks, you can still drop questions in the chat. You have to go to the more in your Zoom toolbar, which is three dots, and then click Q&A. I know some folks had a hard time finding that. But let's dive in. So we have a question from Tori Carroll. Tori's wondering, do broadcast channels require a minimum amount of followers? Tori has trouble finding this feature.
I don't believe it does. The feature needs to be enabled. So you need to create a broadcast channel. Tori, I'm happy to also look up more. I believe how it's done. I'm going to try and do it live. So we'll see if this is even going to work. When I go into my DMs, I hit the pen tool in the top right, and I can either create a group chat or create a broadcast channel. And that's where you should see it. If you're not able to see it there, I can follow up to figure out if there is a minimum following, but I don't believe there is. If you're not seeing it, it may be exclusive to creator accounts, and you might need to switch your account over to a creator account, possibly.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Another question we have. So this user has been posting the same mobile created 30-second to 60-second videos on most platforms. Are there any platforms where it's better to post slightly differently? Blue Sky or LinkedIn? Is it better to have shorter, longer videos, or should we be experimenting with the tone of the videos?
I would say, as a rule of thumb, right? Because all of these platforms are building off one another, and these platforms are also kind of, they want creators to post on their platforms. So let's think about LinkedIn, for example, or Blue Sky. So they're not going to penalize you for posting the same content you post on TikTok. They actually want you to just post video content. So the style in which you post actually will be the same because they're seeing that users engage with the content all the same also. I would just say if you're more so asking because you're seeing maybe a lag in performance, or saying like I'm posting the same thing and they're doing well over here, doing okay over here, I would then suggest to lean into those nuances of the platform. So hashtags really don't do much on Instagram anymore, sadly, but hashtags still work on TikTok. Hashtags don't do anything on LinkedIn, but hashtags also do very well on YouTube Shorts. So I'll just say like play around with those different features.
Another question that we have from Dave King. Is there a tool or app where you can shoot your video once and then upload to Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, all at the same time?
There is. I'll name a few. Some have a cost associated with it, some don't. You can use a Later, a Sprout Social, a Hootsuite, a Buffer. It's basically a social media management tool, they call it. So I can upload my content. I can put different times. I want YouTube to go out at 12 o'clock. I want Instagram to go out at 1 o'clock. I want, well, Blue Sky's not really on anything, I believe. So you might do Blue Sky manually because it's fairly new. But all your other tools, you can absolutely set them to auto publish if you wish. That's probably the best way to do it. You can also set them to just remind you, because there is a benefit to posting natively, I believe, still on TikTok. Instagram, debatable in my opinion. But those are like some great tools to start with.
We actually have another question from Dave as well. Do social media platforms punish, deprioritize you for including a link in your post? I see people doing link in the comments, which is annoying.
So sorry, guys. Slack messages during the call. Can you repeat the question for me? I missed the last part of it.
Yes. Dave is wondering if social media platforms punish or deprioritize you for including a link in your post. We see people doing link in comments, which is kind of annoying.
Platforms have not come out to say they deprioritize you, but it is people do suspect that because they want to keep users on the platform longer, platforms like TikTok, for example, don't want you taking people off the platform. platforms like YouTube don't want you taking people off the platform. It is native within Instagram's content to say link in bio. I think LinkedIn, you're seeing link in comments. Um, LinkedIn, we haven't seen any kind of deprioritization when it comes to that. I would say those other channels, you'll see that.
Another question that we have from Greg, specific to comics. So in the comics category, we are seeing a lot of major publishers come to the platform. Do you have any tips for small independent creators on how to leverage this context?
Is this in regards to a certain platform or just?
Um, it's a good question. I'm wondering if Greg means like specifically to Kickstarter. Hmm.
Hey, Greg, if you want to drop that in the chat, feel free.
Yeah, maybe we can circle back to that one. We have a question from Matt in the Q&A. Do you have any strategies for getting around keywords that get downgraded on Facebook? Even mentioning Kickstarter gets posts hidden.
That's interesting. Uh, and it's also not Facebook is very finicky sometimes. You won't know what gets hidden or deprioritized. I've experienced that within my career also. Um, I would say there's no way of getting around it. It's more so being vigilant in terms of like, all right, I've posted this before, and it feels like this post is not performing or is not being served the same way. That's more like a test and learn strategy. I think it's very different for each account for some odd reason. And it could also be because based on user preferences, because Instagram and Facebook have a feature where I can hide posts with certain keywords, let's call it. So if someone's making this up, says like, I'm seeing a lot of e-com, I want to block this brand, this brand, this brand, they absolutely can. I would just say like test and learn and kind of see like what you're seeing there.
Another question we have is what does a series of tweets look like? I'm unfamiliar with that style of content.
Yeah. So Twitter has, some people call it a thread, which is where threads got their name. But basically, if I post a tweet, you can essentially reply to that tweet, and that creates a series of tweets. So if I wanted to, because Twitter does have like that character limit still, even though it's a little bit longer, you can post like one of two, and then you can have something here. And when they click into the tweet, you're going to see a series of tweets.
Another question that we have from Rob. I recently had an Instagram reel that did way better than usual, 1.1 million views, 26,000 likes, yet it resulted in almost nothing tangible in terms of new followers, website views, etc. Is that expected, or is there something I could have done better to make more of it?
That's a great question. First, kudos to you on that engagement because that's not easy. But you are not alone in feeling that sentiment. Um, I'm not sure that if there was a trending sound or maybe there was a trend you leveraged for that video, maybe the video was just engaging. Sometimes Instagram will see again, right? Hey, there's a dynamic hook here. People are watching this video a lot longer than typical videos. That's when the algorithm says, let's serve it to more people. Then it says, all right, this group of people are watching it more. Let's serve it to more people. So that's where you got that 1 million views, right? But the downside of that is they're basically showing it to what we'll call like an unqualified audience, right? They might have viewed similar content like that, but they're not your key audience. So that's some of the, let's say, downside of going viral, let's call it, right? You're going to reach more people, but they might not be the audience you wanted to reach because they're not really interested in going further, which might mean a follow or clicking your link in bio, etc. Doesn't mean that it's bad, right? That engagement can still be leveraged because we have seen that once users get that level of engagement, the algorithm thinks your next post, let's also serve it to more people. So you're still getting that maximum visibility, which is a benefit for your brand at the end of the day.
Another question. Do you have search suggestions for finding trending music? It's hard to find the right stuff.
There are a couple. Even I think if you search TikTok, oh goodness. It should be like music. Like TikTok actually, I think it might be for TikTok for creators, TikTok for business. There actually is a page on TikTok where they show you the trending music. Same thing for Instagram. But one thing I like to do is I will look at what sounds people are using, right? And just save it. That way, when you go to make a video, you can just go back to those sounds you've seen people create. Or if you watch the video and you notice they all have the same 3 sounds, use it. Even when you scroll up and you suggest or you have music, typically they're gonna have a section that says trending. And that's a great way to just use those trending sounds.
Another question we have from Melody. Do you have any official statistics of contents from which social platforms have better conversion rate for becoming a real Kickstarter backer?
Oh, that's an interesting question. On I can say yes on the Kickstarter side, but it's kind of different, right? So I would say in terms of who we can see actually becomes like goes from social content to backing, Instagram Reels. But it's also very nuanced. And the reason why is because, and you'll see this in the Kickstarter Instagram, we use Sprout Social. And with Sprout Social, we can connect a link to every piece of content. So when you click that link in bio, you basically see our Instagram feed. So whether or not you saw a film, a comic, or a design technology product you want to back, you can click that. We can easily trace that. And that user behavior is native for Instagram. But on TikTok, right? People might not click a link directly on TikTok. They might just Google it from there. If we want to think about, less Kickstarter, just more user behavior, when you see a great restaurant on TikTok or a cool place you want to go, you don't go into that and click it. You probably leave it, go to Google Maps, you go to Google, you go to Instagram, and then you search it. So not saying those other platforms don't eventually lead to backings, but it's just more native on platforms like Instagram. You can also use, a link shortener or any other tool to kind of track those links if it's helpful for you.
There's another question in the chat that I love from Tom Fry. And I could actually take this a little bit, Brandon, because it's about emails. I send emails for Kickstarter. But Tom is wondering, what is the best thing to put in your subject line of an email to maximize email opens? And the first thing I'll say is this very much depends on your audience because it's different depending on what your product or service is and who the audience is that you're serving. But from my perspective, it usually helps to have something shorter, usually less than 50 characters. If it's too long, it'll get cut off in email inboxes. Obviously, you want the content in your subject line to align with the content in your actual email. Sometimes emojis help, but usually not more than one because it can be kind of spammy. Also avoid using any kind of spammy messaging because that can flag your email to get sent to people's junk folders. But the big thing I would say is test it. You can always A/B test within your ESPs and see what works with your audience. Is there anything you'd add to that, Brandon?
No, that's what I was thinking. Yes. Like think about when you look at email on your phone, part of that message gets truncated. So you want to make sure that people are still able to see a bulk of it. And messages don't go to your spam folder immediately because of the nature of the message. Yeah.
Awesome. Someone asked if we're able to save the video to reference. So I'm guessing this is one of the videos you shared, like one of the example videos. So I can include the links to those in the post-event email that I send out so people can save that. So I'll get that from Brandon and make sure that's included. Another question we have, do you think using a tool like Buffer, non-native to app, gets tracked by the apps? Does it negatively impact the post? And do you think there is a preference from the app to post from your phone versus desktop?
Good question. So all of these platforms, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, they all have disclosures that talk about third-party apps, which are these scheduling tools. And there is a debate about whether or not, you will get deprioritized if your posts will get the same level of engagement, if it's better to post natively, all this stuff. Again, I think you are all business owners, you're founders, you're creators, you're artists, and it's tough to worry about posting natively when you're also fulfilling. You got to answer emails, and you got to do R&D, and it's just adding to your workload. And personally, I don't like that. So I've tested it on my own side. I'm also a creator. Um, I don't see too much downside. When I do, and I feel like, oh, this post isn't getting the normal engagement it does, I might pause like the scheduling. Maybe they think I'm trying to like trick the algorithm, and I'll post like a couple things natively. A way to get around that also is most of these tools nowadays allow you to schedule natively within app. So within Instagram, I could actually draft a reel, a post, a carousel, and then schedule it within Instagram on my phone. I can do the same thing on LinkedIn. I can actually schedule natively within app. Is it better to post on mobile versus desktop? I would say mobile, but I haven't seen any data to like solidify that answer. As long as you're posting natively on the app itself, I think they would like that. But I don't think, mobile versus desktop is something they consider.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Another question we have, this is from Lincoln. What do you think about URL shorteners? I hear they're considered suspect.
Mm. They are suspect in the way of people are clicking an unknown link. So, if you have this long link and you're posting it on Facebook and people just see like, this random link, they could be like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to click. I do think within Kickstarter, you can create a shortened link of your project and like it looks a little bit more appealing. And that's why people do use some link shorteners in that way. But you just want to make sure that, you're not having a long or maybe short link that just looks like spammy, or if I click this, I don't know where it's going to take me. That's what people say is suspect, because people want to be very cautious of, I click this link, I don't know what's going to open up, I'm going to download a virus. That's what people mean when they say suspect. Luckily, there are platforms that will automatically shorten it for you. Instagram, if you're doing it on like stories, right, you can actually hide that long link, so you're good. LinkedIn will actually rename all your links. Twitter, I believe, did like the same thing. Maybe they've stopped. I'm not even tracking Twitter as much as like they start to downgrade, but you get the point.
We have another question from Tori Carol. What's your general suggestion for making educational content more entertaining and engaging?
Great question. Um, I love this because I think people have this idea that entertainment and education don't mix. And what I like to call is do edutainment, where like I'm educating someone in an entertaining way. And I think this is actually becoming more acceptable on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. TikTok has actually changed, this notion where people don't want to know information. People go to TikTok and watch it so long because of the information. It's just very entertaining. So I think when we look at, that other side that shows like the arc of a narrative on TikTok, the goal is to still lean into that like platform native way. Let me have an engaging thing. Maybe I open up my video with a shocking statistic. Did you know that X amount of restaurants do blank blank? But I'm gonna change that, and here's why. And then I'm educating you on like here's why I'm doing my restaurant. What's different about it. Like you can still educate people. You're starting with, I think, entertainment. Let's call it. But again, it's becoming very more accepted on platforms like Instagram Reels and TikTok.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions here. Sean has said, I have seen a lot of community and reactions for previous Kickstarter campaigns on Reddit. Is there anything specifically suggested to be seen more, communities that you have seen that have better interactivity, etc.?
I'm gonna assume Sean means maybe like on Reddit, it's like they don't want maybe things being shared like community or Reddit. I think Reddit is also like a great platform for like those super niche communities. I love people posting on Reddit. But in terms of like these other kind of community forums that get better interactions, I think we're seeing that on Blue Sky. It's a very new tool. But again, in the games world, they're finding a home there because Twitter used to be their home and no one really wants to be on Twitter anymore. So like they're going to these other forums. Not to like, put you down a rabbit hole, but there's more community apps. There's ones called Geneva. I've seen people do Discords. I've seen people do Slack channels. So like when you think about like community apps, there's a ton. And I think people are really fostering community in like that way in a very interesting manner. Um, but I would say the primary ones probably still are Reddit, Discord, and let's throw in Blue Sky there just because it's so new that I think people are like finding a home there.
Um, this is a really good question. This is something I've seen come up. What is the best way to respond to people who have responded to your promo saying they've never backed a Kickstarter before and need instructions for it?
I love that. I think there's a couple ways to do it. And this is something we did not touch upon. You could do a carousel post. That way people can save it and you can share it. You can even pin it. Like, here's how to back if you're a first time backer, and literally screenshots step by step by step. You can also just do a video on TikTok and Instagram and probably some other channels. You can reply to a comment with a video. So it allows people to know, like, hey, I've seen you guys asked about this. Let me show you how. And then you just walk them through the process, right? That's another way of doing entertaining content that also educates. I'm going to walk you through the process of backing your first time backer. Here's how to support this campaign.
That's awesome. We might also have a blog post too around like what is Kickstarter and kind of like a 101 thing, or maybe
Our
it's something.
article, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have something too that would be awesome to share. Um, awesome. I think that's all the time we have for questions. I know there's also been some in the chat as well. Um,
I've seen a couple.
oh, I know there was a couple. I want to make sure maybe we'll do
Yeah,
one more here.
I,
Okay. Did you have one specifically you wanted to
I did
share?
have one because I
Okay.
think like what is Shella asks, what's your preferred video
Mm.
editing? And I think for a lot of people, I think CapCut is probably the easiest. CapCut is this mobile app where you can literally just use their templates. So if you have 3 videos and you say, I don't even know how to edit this, you can go on CapCut. They have a lot of free templates, they have some paid ones, but basically you can just like tap in, I want to put these videos, it will auto edit the content for you. It's super easy, it will lower the bar. You don't have to be proficient in video editing and sound mixing and then where do the captions go? It does it all for you.